Hello, and welcome to Comedy Craft with beers on craft from the draft and talking the craft of comedy. That was a lot to say in the beginning. Welcome, folks. Coming to you from the amazing DC Comedy Loft here in our nation's capital of Washington, D.C. As always, I'm your host, Haywood Turnip Seed Jr., and tonight's guest with me is Matthew Broussard. What's up, Matthew?
Hey. Oh, I'm sorry. I should ask this before you. What are we going to be done before 1:15? Because I have another podcast at 1:30 a.m.
Yeah.
It's a good time. We're doing a podcast at 12:30.
Matt said, we're doing this after Matt sold out shows at the DC Comedy Loft. 4 of them, if I'm not mistaken, right?
We have 4 shows, yeah.
4 shows. Look at this man. He's out here doing shows. One of the few comedians we can say not only is he selling out comedy shows, but he has a degree in applied mathematics. He's appeared on Comedy Central, Jimmy Fallon, Conan, and guest starred in his shows like The League, Mindy Project, and MTV's God Code. He's an amazing performer and creator of the webcomic Monday Punday. Get ready to talk craft beers and the craft of comedy with one of my new friends, soon to be my good friend, Matthew Broussard. But we got to get out of here by 1:15 because he has to be somewhere at 1:30.
That was a joke. Okay.
So how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. DC has been it's just great. These are really great crowds. It's some of my favorite in the country. They're just
really
very smart. It's a great club too.
We always say that, especially about DC crowds. Very smart, very Mensa crowds. Even there's a paper that has that wonk with no backwards because they're very thoughtful crowds and stuff like that. How do you like telling those kind of jokes to those kind of folks? Jokes that you can get away with.
It's a pleasure. The details, the parts that I kind of savor are not lost on them.
Yeah.
There is a sensitivity though with these crowds. There's a definite sensitivity.
You notice that, yeah?
Yeah, and I noticed in particular one issue with one of my jokes that kind of came to the forefront this weekend. That tiptoed around a little bit of Islamophobia on my part, and I realized that's and then I walked down the street and I saw like multiple signs addressing it. Like that's a big thing here, I'm guessing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, everything's a big thing here.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's like, okay, and then you always have people who are in that mindset because they're like us. They're always on. You know what I mean? They're always like, oh, how do we, lobbyists and the ones who are just trying to make a change. When we're telling those folks jokes, they're like, hey, you really can't say that. And it was like, that's the whole point of the joke. Sometimes you have to say it to realize that it maybe not that it shouldn't be said, but how it shouldn't be said.
Right.
But case in point, I grew up Muslim, so I'm Islamophobic. There are plenty of times I did not like Ramadan. It's coming again. So, I mean, really, I don't want to be that close to God where I got to be that hungry.
Sounds like, we do it for one day. Jews, just get it all done.
Right on. So talk to us a little bit. We talk about your background. Matthew is, if I'm not mistaken, born in New Jersey.
Born in New Jersey, left when I was like 3. Don't remember that.
Okay, cool. And
though in my
to go to
Corpus Christi.
Corpus Christi, Texas.
Corpus Christi, Texas for 10 years.
Oh wow.
Didn't know better. And then moved to Atlanta when I was 13.
Oh, right on. So teenage years in Atlanta.
And then back to Texas. Went to college in Houston. Started comedy in Houston. Worked in Houston, and then L.A.
Okay.
From ages 25 to 28. Or so, and then New York since.
Right on. So you're in New York now?
Yeah, in the grand scheme of things, I came back to where I started. And as a Jew raised in the South, you never really feel at home because New York is our promised land. And I sojourned home, and I do feel right there. I always wanted to get out of the South, and I got to California, and I realized no better.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I thought I'd like it because it's more liberal, but I found, I realized the South is a more intelligent place. Though I might not politically.
It's highly intelligent.
Houston especially.
Yeah, Houston.
You know what Houston has?
And Houston is very diverse. People don't realize that.
Very diverse. I think,
Huge Middle Eastern community.
Yep.
Huge, like, African, a lot of different people.
Well,
Houston is one of the biggest cities in America, if I'm not mistaken.
I think it's like 3rd or 4th biggest.
Yeah.
I don't know if it beats Chicago, but it's 3rd. Yeah. And yeah, there were so many shows I do where the crowd, you look at the crowd, it's like it's 1/3 white, 1/3 black, 1/3 Hispanic, plus a little bit of action. It's like that's really cool. And one thing that Houston has that people don't realize is the biggest medical center in the world by a factor of 4. Second place is not a fourth the size of it. They have Baylor and really? I guess Mayo, not Mayo, whatever. They have a couple of schools there. And then we have NASA.
Yeah, NASA. Yeah.
So we have, and then we have.
Camp, so I'm familiar.
It's headquarters to like American headquarters to oil companies, lots of oil companies.
Yeah.
So audiences are full of petrochemical engineers, doctors, and literal rocket scientists. And when I moved to California, people were like, "Oh, Texas must have." I was like, "It's smarter than here. You have a film degree, and you're judging." Scientists.
That's where the people put up the money so that the films can be made. There's usually a lot of Texans involved going, hey, you want to make that? You want to make Avengers, huh?
That was a character in the first Entourage movie.
Yeah.
I auditioned for that part.
Really?
The part that went to Haley Joel Osment.
That's right. He was a little Texas
son of
kid.
Billy Bob Thornton. I was a Texas billionaire who was just bankrolling movies. Yeah.
Oh man. Well, that's not a bad. Well, I guess you did good.
Yeah, it's a good movie.
He's not selling out 4 shows at the DC Comic Loft. I can tell you that much.
He would. I would pay to see. What does this guy have to say?
I see audience members.
Yeah, there you go.
So for those of you tuning in for the first time to hear the Comedy Craft Podcast, we're always joined by some amazing guests. With our amazing guests, we try out a few different tasty craft beers, and we talk about the craft of comedy and what makes a comedian comedian. So we
also eat Kraft singles and talk about Robert Kraft, the
we do talk about
disgraced
Robert
Patriot
Kraft.
owners. Yeah,
and
every wordplay involving Kraft.
You do know that is a thing now. That is, get the Kraft. That is, you can buy that actually at your local brothel. They bring out cheese.
I'm eating Kraft macaroni and cheese.
And they make you get in the position of a patriot. What do you think about that?
The business model?
Yeah, what do you think about a billionaire getting a hand job? I think that was exactly that was the juice for him. Because at that point, when you got that kind of money, you're like, you know what? You can get what you want at most times, but you can't get that low end shit. He went and got that low end.
It's low risk. They're not going to try to, you know what I mean? If you don't want to get caught, that's the way to do it.
They weren't telling, that's for sure. Somebody was in there like, I saw Bob Kraft in this bitch.
Mm-hmm. That happened to a woman in my neighborhood, a friend of my mom's. I'm not going to name names, but she suspected her husband of many years.
Oh.
So she whatever, PI'd him or did some stuff. Turned out he was getting some.
On the side, huh?
From massage parlors.
Oh, really? Oh, that happens.
And then he got herpes and gave it to her.
Oh.
Maybe we should take that out of the podcast.
He brought home a gift. Well, we didn't name names. We just know it's a friend of the family. And we didn't say what state this was in. This could have been in Jersey, and you left when you were 3, so you heard this.
This was in Texas.
Corpus Christi? Texas. They say all of my exes. I spent a little time in Texas. San Antonio and Wichita Falls when I was in the military. So.
I did a report on Wichita Falls in 5th grade.
You ever seen the jackalope?
No.
Man.
Oh, yes, I have. At, like gas stations?
Yeah, those big-ass
Never
rabbits.
in the wild.
Never, right?
Yeah, always stuffed.
People think they're like the chupacabra and they're imaginary, but they're not. They're real, man. There's the jackalopes. There's these rabbits that's big as shit. They're like Bugs
I thought
Bunny.
you were talking about the ones that... No, actually, you see at rest stops, I see... They actually
the
have
ones with
jackalopes where they actually attach antlers to... The real ones?
Yeah.
Dude, they're like spring-loaded.
Yeah, they look like...
If you just snap, they're like...
It's like a mix between a rabbit and a kangaroo. They're about like, yo.
Springy.
He literally stood up and was like, I was like, look at that, Wallow. That is Bugs fucking Bunny right there. I was looking for Yosemite Sam. To go, I say, Texas. So, you've been in D.C. for a few days now. This is not your first time in D.C. though, right?
No, it's my second time at the club, and I visited here and there.
How do you like D.C. in general?
Well, first college show I did was at no, that was never mind. That was Baltimore. Oops. But I spent the night in D.C.
Yeah. So Johns Hopkins, that was the first college show you did? Mm-hmm. Cool. How did you like it?
It was fun. It was my first college show, so I was so nervous.
I know. How you like doing college shows? I mean,
I like it.
I like it.
It's 1 out of 4 will kind of suck, but like 3 out of 4 are really fun. And there's a different... It's not going to be the same. You're not going to get like laughs the same way on every joke you would in a club, but like there's a fun to it. There's an enthusiasm they have. It's for many of them their first comedy show, and they're excited to be a part of it. So like their bar is a lot lower.
Yeah,
a lot of times you'll come off stage at a college, you'll be like, "Fuck, that was not good." And then you walk in, And the kids walk up to you, and they are genuinely, you can see they're not faking it. Like, that was so much fun.
Yeah.
Like, oh, because you don't know what a good comedy show is yet. Yeah.
They have fun nights. It's usually, I was talking about this past week to somebody because they were talking about, they had heard something on the podcast about comedians saying that, this is the last vein of free speech and that colleges are kind of shutting it down. And I don't really find that, I haven't really encountered that. I think more, especially when you're dealing with college audiences, you're dealing with people who are in that thinking process anyway. So their minds are a lot open anyway. Mm-hmm. So in this generation that we're dealing with, and I want to get your thoughts on this, this generation that we're dealing with now, I'm in my 40s, we're dealing with kids who are now in their 20s, who are our mad scientist producer Seth's age, right? Mm-hmm. We're dealing with the kids that we told you can't say certain things and you can't do certain things. Not that you shouldn't, not that you should keep it hidden, but that you can't. And now these kids have a voice and they're saying, you told us you can't say this. So no, you can't say that, even at a comedy club. So I find that it's changing in my mind just the way, not that I have to present things, but how I have to understand things and how I have to engage folks. And it's not bad to me. It's not a bad challenge. It's just like, okay, how do I get these folks to get on board with what I'm saying? What do you think about that? Do you think what do you think about cancel culture in that aspect?
Oh, I love that. I think it's overall a good thing. I think I try to remind myself of, like, you can't just be like, that's gay. And, it used to be like, gay, and everyone would just die laughing. Like, fuck, dude, you got him real good. Holy shit. When you call him gay, that was so funny.
Yeah, that was a bird.
Now it's like, no, you got to be more original than that. Yeah. That's not a good insult anymore. And I'm happy for anything that raises the bar. I don't think we have to be nice to each other, but I think if we're going to be mean, we should be a little more creative. I don't think it's all about, it's I like raising the bar on how we talk.
Yeah. Well, it's like the South. In the South, though, people go like, they're very nice in their barbs, very nice in their jabs, So it's like, I'm not really talking about you, I'm just talking about what you do. So I find that same thing when it comes to just culture in general. I'm not necessarily talking about an individual, and I'm just talking about what I see happen culturally speaking. Mm-hmm. So I think it is up on me to make that funny.
Yeah,
it isn't on the audience to get it as much as it is for me to help them get it.
Yeah, find a way to talk to them and you got to be original. There's so much access now of, like, growing up, I couldn't just watch stand up whenever I wanted to.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's impossible for a young person to realize. Like, used to be like stand up was like you were flipping through channels, like, oh, cool, it's stand up. And you just watch, who it was, like, oh, I love this when it's on. I don't know how to find it.
Yeah.
You didn't I didn't even remember, like, renting a stand up special on like with your one friend who had HBO.
Yeah, and you would hang out. Yeah.
So now it's just it's a more accessible commodity. So you got to make something more special.
Isn't that that's how it works? When things become more accessible, you have to find ways to make them more special.
But you can also make we're in a great era where you can actually tailor your comedy to your audience.
Yeah.
And even if your comedy only works for 10% of people, well, 10% of people is still like 700 million people. So, so you'll be fine.
Yeah. So speaking of numbers, you have this degree in applied mathematics.
Yes.
And the stand-up comic. Have you ever used applied mathematics and applied it to stand-up comedy?
Not directly. I'm sure. I'm of the belief that the ways it expanded my mind and learning how to learn helped me learn stand-up faster.
Yeah.
I think there's pattern recognition. I think it's analysis. I think it's just anytime you can kind of soup up your horsepower for your mind, it can then be reapplied to something else pretty easily. So,
I dig that. I think that our musicians and mathematicians and scientists really are interesting comedians.
Yeah.
And it comes out really, really different and really, really well because inherently in all those disciplines are rhythms.
Right.
And comedy to me is based on rhythm and timing.
See, I'm not a rhythm guy. I don't have rhythm. I never did music.
Yeah.
See, to me it reminds me of coding a little bit or good proof.
Okay. Yeah.
And that your goal was to cut all the fluff.
Yeah.
I would do assignments for applied math where you'd write an algorithm that would solve a complex equation, and your grade was based on how fast it solved it.
Wow.
So you had to make sure it was programmed the most efficient way, and it wasn't taking extra loops. It wasn't. So to me, that reminds me a lot of writing a good joke. Typically, I'm constantly thinking of what words, what syllables can I take out? How can I say this in the fewest words possible? Because my only job in my mind up there is to get to the next punchline as fast as I can.
Yeah.
Very rarely am I trying to extend or find a laugh to squeeze in efficiently. But when I say a joke, when I'm with a group of friends and I say a joke,
Yeah.
I will if it gets a laugh in my head, I'll count the number of words. Because I'm very impressed when someone can say 3 words and get a laugh.
Oh,
or 4 words. And usually too many words, you stop getting laughs. So if you can just pop in with 3 words and just get a laugh,
Yeah, that's the
you feel like a magician.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant.
Like my theory of comedy right now is that what separates like jokes from regular conversation is data compression. I think it's what creates laughter is typically a neural short circuiting. 2 parts of your brain that weren't connected are now connected.
Yeah.
That's why misdirection. When you reveal something, you have to reevaluate the story with this new information.
Yeah.
And it recreates the story in your mind from a different vantage point. That's why you get a laugh very often. Or even in a good descriptive joke, you describe this person, it's walking the way a horse, blah, blah, blah. And now you have that picture of the horse somewhere stored in your mind, and you picture that person, and now there's some connection between them. And it's like a short circuiting, is how I've described. And I think in order to do that efficiently, I can't just explain something that's funny to you. I have to, in the last 3 words, unload a data bomb. I have to drop a zip file in your head that decompresses into some. So it's the most information using the least communication. And that's why I'm really impressed with jokes where it's not even words, a simple gesture, where they're doing a story and then they do something with their hands that now with that hand they've created an object in that world or some kind of new environment around them, or how an eyebrow or expression can often help it. But like that's kind of how I break down comedy, and that's the math of it to me.
Yeah, I dig it because it's like sometimes I work in telecommunications in my day job. And occasionally, when I'm not getting the response that I want, I'm like packet loss. It's just like I'm pinging, but I'm not getting what I want. So what do I need to do in order to get what I want back from the audience? And of course, it's that give that they have to give you back that we have to mail with. That's the X factor, right?
We feel like we have control over the audience. Yeah.
But at some point, eventually, we do get to that right place. We go, like you speaking in coding. I install this file. It unzips in their brain, and boom, it downloads, and we get that response that we're looking for. Yeah, and that's exactly what I want to happen. And it doesn't happen exactly every time, which is the real world
remarkably
aspect.
Consistent. That's that people are like, wow, comedy's so subjective. Like, it's surprising how much it's not.
Right.
It's remarkable how many places I have told this joke and how over 60% of people laugh every time I tell this joke. Out loud. These words in that order evoke laughter.
That's it. Evoking
crazy.
Laughter.
It's our only job, and it's like computers can't do that. Computers have done a lot of things. I think one of the they will get there. I think one of the last things computers will be able to do is write jokes.
You think? Well,
that's why I do comedy. Job security.
Speaking of job security, let's get into why we are here. Let's drink some beer. Are you ready to drink some beer?
Yeah,
we're speaking of craft of comedy, man. That was a tasty morsel that he gave us right there, and I want to wash that down with something. So let's bring in Shells.
Hey, gentlemen.
Hey, how you doing?
Awesome.
What do we have today for our first craft?
We have the original Sin Black Widow. It is a blackberry hard cider. It's from New York, New York. It has a 5.5 ABV on it, and it's blackberry and apples.
It's red.
With like champagne yeast.
With champagne yeast?
Yeah.
Ooh, okay.
Ooh, wow, that's fruity smelling.
Let's go.
All right, ready?
That's good.
Oh man, that's really good.
That's good. It's a nice fall beer too. It's a nice fall cider. It tastes like leaves, like sweet leaves.
Yeah.
It's
kind of thick. Kind of syrupy even.
I can taste the blackberry cider aspect of it. That's awesome. And what's the name again?
Original Sin Black Widow.
Original Sin Black Widow. Like Eve, huh? So I noticed in your act,
Morbid Things.
you threw your background, your culture.
Yes.
into your act. You threw the fact that you're Cajun and also Jewish into your act. And I love the bit about language.
Thank you. I tried to find ways of conveying those two cultures to people, and a lot of times it's really fun to look into the minute details of something and use that as a reflection on the known characteristics of, let's say, a group.
Yeah.
So to look at the Hebrew and French side by side and what they indicate about those two cultures, how that can reflect on those two cultures, or their foods is a big thing.
Yeah.
And those are food's easy.
Yeah.
And I had to. I do a food joke, but I have to.
Yeah.
And in comedy, it's always frustrating because you write a good joke and you find out someone else has it.
Oh,
and
man.
ultimately, most jokes are written. And for me, I'm always, I would like to write so specific to my own experience that no one could have that joke. And when you look at the number of jokes about being Cajun and Jewish, you're luckily not going to have much competition.
Yeah.
Me and Shia LaBeouf, and that's about it.
Shia LaBeouf, both Cajun and Jewish?
Yeah, I think so. He claims to be.
Oh, but he's off the grid though now, man. He's
living off that even Stevens money.
He's a different cat right now. I dig him though. I think he's anyway, I said it to say. So I like how you because your bit about being a white man. Mm-hmm. And then how you have this, you bring us into your culture and your unique point of view. It's difficult for a white man right now to even state that they have a point of view.
Right.
How do you deal with that right now?
I talked about it in the past. I did jokes from the perspective of being a white man and being afraid to say too much, and ultimately tried to take on the fun challenge of painting white man as an underdog, which we're not. I mean, no. And you're like, well, because some like, yeah, but not really. So it's fun. It's really fun to try to argue an impossible point. That's why people are like upset about it. How could you say? I'm like, because it's a ridiculous statement, and that's why it's funny to argue it. It's always people. That's a good trick in joke writing. If you feel strongly about something, how do I write joke? Like, how do I write a joke about this thing I feel strongly about? Like, take the opposite stance. And then in order to defend it, you will have to come up with something ridiculous, and ridiculous makes good comedy.
I.e. Cajun and Jewish.
And I'm also trying to talk about my heritage and about myself, and I'm trying not to talk about being white.
Yeah.
I also think it's I think it's a little unfair to say that my experience as a white man is the same as every other white person's. I think there's a lot of us, and I don't want to speak for everyone. Yeah.
And you have a different, you have a unique point of view.
Yeah, and I'd rather be more specific. I think it's always better when you're more specific to yourself. I think a lot of people try to be relatable, and by picking universal experiences, I think that's a very stupid thing to do. I think you don't need to be relatable in the details of the experience. The part that's relatable is the emotion underneath, because we all feel the same emotions, even though we have that's different experiences. And you even see this in music. You may judge me for this, but one of my favorite bands lyrically is Counting Crows. Very evocative lyrics, and it's never things you can particularly relate to. He names places, he names people. He talks so specifically. Even in interviews, he says, "I speak just about myself. I'm surprised that people can relate to it so well."
Yeah,
I was like, that's great. That's what you want.
Yeah, it's like a Frost poem with him, though. It's like you get the colors of his life.
Yes,
but
you don't. It's so specific that it's hard to follow. Yet you get it.
Yeah. But that's what you want, right? That's what we want the audience to do in some aspect, is to follow us along. Basically, follow the bouncing ball.
Right.
Follow us from thought to completion. And then hopefully have a good time along the way.
And they're plugging in whatever you're explaining. They're plugging in their own experiences. I think comedy typically relies on feelings of alienation or embarrassment or shame or insecurity. I think those are great things to bring up as a community, because it makes people feel less alone in those feelings. Because outside of comedy, most people have to hide those weaknesses.
Very true. Very true.
And to share them with other people is doing them a favor. You're making them feel better.
That's the connection that we make with people, right? It's not
making
just
them
me.
feel less alone.
Yeah, it's not just me, and it's. I'm learning right now that as especially young white guys are feeling that way. I'm like, wow, okay, that could be a part of the problem.
in
society, and in a way, you're reaching out to someone and helping. It's like, okay, someone, as we were talking off mic, we were talking about some of our people who influenced us and stuff like that. We're talking about making connections to people who are like ourselves. But then a lot of times it's people who are unlike ourselves that we go, that's the human part, that a sense of humor, kind of builds. That's the...
I'm thinking about something I love to see is like for white men, it's really fun to see people who aren't white men, especially people of color or women of color, defending white men. That's really funny. For me to do it, it wouldn't be very funny. For I think like Sam J has a joke again, like I feel bad for white men. Or Akash Singh has one of my favorite jokes about like pretty tough being a white man right now. And that's funny because you can catch the sarcasm.
But it is, and it's like, you know what? I'm gonna rap. It was funny because as I was watching you set, I was watching you connect. We were telling you a joke about baking soda. And there was a black couple sitting up front, and they were dying. Yeah. And then when you did the part about, I recognize my privilege, they even went even further.
Oh, cool.
And I was like, that's the fourth wall. That's breaking and going, oh, I see. And I know. But I did it anyway. And they're like, and you got away with it. And that's I love those moments, man. That's part of what makes me like stand-up comedy so much.
Yeah, that's a weird of leaving. I don't know why, especially early on comedy, where I'd finish a show and I'd be sitting out there and like an older black couple would walk up like, we love it. And it's just like I'm like, that means everything to me. I'm like, how wildly different are our life experiences, you and me, and like you can still enjoy what I make makes me very happy.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I remember. Oh, those are the dopest moments. So speaking of the early days, now you're a full-time comic.
Yes.
But you had a day job.
I had a day job when I started,
So how did you balance having a day job?
I didn't, and that's why I don't have it anymore. That's why I do this now.
What was your day job?
I was in finance. I was a financial analyst, but not like a New York style 80 hours a week type thing.
Wait, in Texas?
In Texas.
Okay, cool. So
for a small little private wealth management fund.
Oh, nice.
Did some, rounding up data.
Yeah. I was I have a set of cousins who worked on Wall Street. So I always find it interesting when I find people from that walk of life who come into entertainment. They have a unique perception on just entertainment in general, but they also know how to save their money so they don't deal with a lot of bullshit.
And compound interest.
Yeah.
I do think of it's gross when people try to too heavily monetize an art, but like it is commerce. Ultimately, we are relying on people purchasing something we created.
Art and commerce,
whether it's widgets or jokes. Yeah, there's a supply and demand, and my girlfriend's always good about reminding me of like, this is a job. Don't act like you're too good to post about your shows on Instagram. That's part of the job. That's true.
Yeah. And it's just I have a startup product. There's the artist that lives within us, and there's the entertainer, right? So the artist is the one who suffers, and the entertainer is the one who showcases that suffering. But the two have to coexist, And then commerce is the line where these two can come together and go. The entertainer is like, I gotta eat, and the artist is like, but what? So when you get those two things together, that's A&E, right? That is the network. That is arts and the entertainment. I work at an art gallery. I said it to say I see these people who have lived years and years ago, even live currently, and their art goes for sometimes millions and sometimes nothing. You don't stop doing it, but at the same time, if you can earn a living from it, why not? We live in a society, a capitalist society, where you can earn a living on many, many different things.
But the danger is, and I catch myself doing this, is we use the money as a barometer, as a quantitative metric of our success.
Well, you, as an analyst, understand it as monies, yes? Like there's monies and there's economics. And I learned myself a while ago that money's a tool. And if we approach it as a tool, then it's not a toy, then we won't use it unwisely.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense. But at the same time, like you said, people use it for validation. And then think about it. If you 80 hours a week, you get one of those checks, you get the $1,500 check. It's a lot different than getting a $15,000 check. And sometimes when people see all those zeros, they don't know what to do. But are we taught money in school the way you were taught money in school? Like in the basic public school education?
I learned. my understanding of math, whether I don't remember being directly taught about money, but I know math well enough that I can understand money.
Yeah.
Budgeting, saving,
Yeah.
how much you need to start investing, those kinds of things.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm it's the yardstick thing of it. It's interesting to me because I'm not that motivated by money. I had wealthy parents. I always had a fallback, so it was never my first thing.
Yeah.
And that's a huge privilege, and it allowed me to work on the comedy I wanted to make rather than the comedy I needed to make.
That's awesome.
And
That's awesome.
That's kind of why I do something a little more niche with my act. I think if I grew up, poor and I had to be more hungry, I think I would be aiming for that Kevin Hart style, which is what's the fucking funniest thing I can do that can make the most people laugh and buy tickets. I want to make them just everything.
Yeah.
And then I think you'll see people who come from like wealth are like, I want to be an artiste. You know what I mean? They lean over to the art over the entertainment.
True.
Like Kevin Hart's kind of a pure entertainer. And then this, like I maybe I'm not even saying if I wanted to make more money, I would. I know how I could do that, but I don't want to. I want to make money, but there are a lot of things I don't want lines I don't want to cross in order to do so.
I understand. Yeah.
So that's like part of it for me, and that's why I get to be pretentious. That's why I had an album called Pedantic, because I know I am.
That's awesome, man.
But I love that dichotomy of arts and entertainment. I've never put it in those terms. I have a couple of those like dualities that I look at through, but I look a lot of times at subjective and objective of commerce and art. I think I call it commerce and art is how I split it, or art and craft is what.
Oh, okay.
Art and craft. Art is the subjective portion. Craft is the objective portion. So I think people say art is subjective, and I believe that's not correct. I think subjective is art. I think when you make something whose value can't be judged by any quantitative system, that's only real value is in how people react to it, whether it's how scared you are of a horror movie, or how much you laugh at a comedy special, or how much you cry at a sappy movie. Those are the artistic elements, and when you start to apply numbers to it, that's when it starts to lean towards craft. Or even entertainment of what, you can't say how good a musician is. You can't say how many tickets they sell, how many albums they sell. So those are the craft elements, and you can perfect craft. There's a way to judge how well something's been crafted, but you can't measure art. You never will be able to. People claim you can. No.
You can't.
No.
You can't. Right.
Never, ever.
Right.
Because you could have said everyone during, let's say, that's how you say, but like Picasso's day, no one would have said he was a genius then. Or was it Van Gogh? Whichever one was underrated, and then after they died, now we all agree he's an artist. Maybe it could come out that he's a hack. Or maybe someone who's a hack. People have made careers being hacks. Look at Mr. Brainwash. He was literally a renowned hack. His whole career was just being a hack. And everyone was like, well, hacky is kind of artistic because we frown on hack. Or Murakami is the most beautiful evolution of art. Are you familiar with Murakami? If you're not familiar, can you explain who he is? I don't want to mansplain it. He did the album cover for Kanye. He did some stuff with Drake.
I don't want to say just a visual artist. He's in the art medium.
He's in the art mediums. He's
one of the
highest selling artists in the world.
Yeah, whatever he sees as art, he's going to put something in that medium and go, okay, I'm going to push this out like sculptures or
paintings or visual or purses or clothing lines.
Clothing lines.
What's really cool about it, you've seen his work. I recommend you look it up. He's been referenced in Drake songs. Got a couple more comments in my hallway.
Too, and it's really like when you can see, and that's the thing about like art and commerce. Like, Japan has a different view of art in general.
And he spread that westward. There is no line between commerce and art. Because a good example of what he does is he'll have these multi-million-dollar artworks it'll be a sculpture patterned in the Louis Vuitton logo. And he says it doesn't matter that it's an ad. It can be an ad and be art.
There is
and that really I only discovered him recently. I'm like, That's great. That's a great way to look at it. It's such a Western pretense that, oh no, if you're using it to sell things, then it's garbage now.
Right. And
my girlfriend's really utilitarian on this one. She's like, why else would we be doing this other than to make money? What the fuck? Why do you think you're better than this? Don't act. It's a lie to say you're not trying to ultimately make money out of it.
Yeah, I once heard Bill Withers say about music. He was like, people talk about being called a sellout, but as an artist, at some point, what you want to do is sell out. You want to sell out a venue. You just sold out some shows.
Yeah.
So you do want to sell out. Now, if you can do so without selling your soul, but at the same time, you do put a little portion of your soul in what you do. You just want the people to appreciate it. And the part you're talking about, which makes it objective, is that's the part we have no control over. Who actually is here appreciating. That's what made Chappelle walk away at that one moment. It was that type of laugh.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, oh, that cat is laughing a little too hard in the way that I don't want them to be. And I think as we grow, we get comfortable with somebody seeing something. I wasn't even saying that at all, but if that's what you see, I got to deal with that. Thank you for the $25 ticket.
Yeah.
You know.
There's some people who like, you can tell.
Yeah.
Some people when they someone said, I forget what comic said it made me so happy because we were talking about like comedians being in movies, like comedians we started with and we know who are in like big movies now. And you can tell comedians are doing well when they start being in bad movies. And the example was, I hope he doesn't listen to this podcast, but Kumail was in that Taxi Driver movie.
Oh, yeah.
That was, it's stealing the words of Rick and Morty, a joyless cash grab. And it was a bad movie, and they're like, congrats to Kumail. They just put him in a movie that was designed to, through an optimization algorithm, sell the most tickets.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, they had to plug in, well, if we put an Indian guy here, and we have that guy from Avengers here.
Yeah. You figure that's a low-end Disney product. They're both in Disney movies coming out, and they got to keep their faces out there. So
good for him. And then there's some people who like make great movies of like Matt Damon.
Yeah.
It's his agent clearly wants to buy an Audi. Like it's clearly like there's people around him who are just poking him into taking on more stuff that he doesn't have any passion for. But I don't know. I just like to work. Like, you look at those guys and you're like, why are they taking those movies? Because it's a movie. Because there's something to wake up for 6 months.
Yeah. That's Sam Jackson. Why not do Snakes on the Plane?
Fucking why not, man?
So
it's speaking
fun. Of talking about comics doing original things, what would you name this beer that's original sin? It's cider. What would you name original cider? It's original sin cider.
Let's see. I don't know. Delicious. Red Fantastic.
Red Fantastic. I like that name. Red Fantastic. So the name of Original Sin Black Widow, which is slightly purple and blackberry cider, 6.0 out of New York, is Red Fantastic. Sounds like a superhero.
Yeah.
I like that. First Indian superhero that's on the big screen.
Or a blaxploitation.
Red Fantastic. That do sound like a dance song, though.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm getting some notifications from our mad scientist Seth in the background that we will be right back after this slight break. Do you love podcasts but just haven't found the show for you? Well, you're in luck. Here at Mad Scientist Media, we're coming out with amazing content throughout the month. Take a look to see what we have coming up at our website, msm.fm. That's msm.fm for Mad Scientist Media. And we're back. Welcome back to Comedy Craft, where we're talking about the craft of comedy and craft beers. Today's guest is Matthew Broussard, and we've already been talking about art and craft. We've been talking about beers. We named our last beer Red Fantastic, and we're getting ready for our second beer. Shells, what do you got for our second beer?
I have the Destil Moon Jumper.
Destil Moon Jumper.
It is a nitro milk stout.
Destil Moon Jumper.
Favorite kinds of beers.
Yeah.
Nitro milk stout. Cheers.
Aren't these like surprisingly low in calories?
Stouts? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. They're like, oh, but it's so thick and dark.
Higher in alcohol.
Yeah.
High alcohol. So they recommend a nice stout after a good workout.
Very good.
Oh, that's very good. Nice.
Who recommends that?
The Batista. So we're talking about some very.
Can I name it yet?
You can if you're ready to name it. Name it.
Orc Blood.
Orc Blood. What is Orc Blood from Lord of the Rings? I was watching that earlier.
It's Orc Blood.
You know the orcs are the black people in Lord of the Rings. They got dreadlocks and shit. They running around. Meat is back on the menu, boys. I'm like, look at this shit here. I love that movie though. I love that movie. Black people got fantasy. So speaking of fantasy, it's a fantastic thing.
Well, you don't see any black hobbits. You know what I mean?
I know a few. I know a few mental midgets. Anyway, we're talking about some brainiac things, right? We're talking about brains and mathematics and things that are pretty heady. And I have this thought that all comedians, all funny people are smart, but that all smart people aren't funny.
I agree with that. I think you have to be intelligent to be funny.
Yeah.
Or at least socially intelligent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have to be able to have a discussion with people, you know. Conversational at the very least. And most people who are, like I have an uncle who, he used to hang out at the library. I mean, that's just what he did, and would read all kind of different books and could talk to anybody. It's probably part of the reason I wanted to do stand-up. And one of the things that was greatest about him is that he was just really funny also. But somebody who's funny who can talk about different topics to me is always like, yeah. But then you always find that smart people aren't always funny.
Very often not.
and
yeah.
They go to IT. They go into IT, and then they become hilarious, and they lord over people. So did you ever notice that when you're working out in the business world?
Well, I noticed it with my family, and it took me a long time to figure out if my father was a very
Your dad's a chemist, right?
chemist. He was a PhD chemist, a very intelligent,
PhD
especially book guy.
Yeah.
He might have had high functioning autism. He was like socially not a very. It didn't come easily to him interacting with people. He was very charming in his own way, in his dorky way, but would tell long stories. Kind of couldn't read people very well. And it took me a long time in life to realize that we value societally. We consider someone who's good with numbers, good with words, good with like large sets of data as an intelligent person. But what I noticed with myself is whereas I had those aptitudes, I think it was at the expense of social intelligence. And to me, being able to read people seems like real intelligence to me, or it seems like it requires just as much processing power, because computers can do a lot of math. They can't read people's emotions. There's in every conversation you have with every person, there are like a million nonverbal cues. There are a million things you're dancing around. There's a very narrow path of polite, accepted conversation, and there are almost an infinite number of ways it could go wrong. And most people, most of the time, are walking down that little ledge.
Right.
And to be a socially apt person, you got to be socially smart.
Right. Body language.
I am at this point in my life, kind of in my 20s, and now learning to understand people, and it's a far more challenging puzzle than figuring out math.
That's wild, because I was talking to some friends before, and they were talking about different types of audience, and they're talking about people they don't like entertaining people who don't read. And I was like, well, it's different types of reading because there's different types of languages. Coding is one type of language. There's body language. You know, I know people who are horticulturalists, right? So they were talking about the language of plants and different things, how different things speak to you. But I think it's what we're taught to read that help us. I don't know what that is. That helps us understand our positions, right? Just where we are in the world and who we are and day to day. As a comic, how do you get into all of that? Like where you use that part of your brain and the other part. You use the left and the right together at the same time.
It's a lot of left for me. even I think I've learned how to fake a lot of things. I think. And I think there are mechanics to comedy. I think there is a craft to comedy to learn. I think the challenging part of comedy for most people is just the comfort and ease. But then you have to have. I think the challenging, like one of the hardest things to get over and one of the most important things is awareness of how you're coming off and being able to constantly adjust. of just
point.
in very little ways, and it's understanding how the crowd might be perceiving you.
Yeah, because even when you talk about being a white man, you don't come off as a white man talking about it. You don't. To me, when I heard it, it wasn't coming from a position of.
You talking about the line in the baking soda joke?
Yeah,
it's just really quick. I just wanted to kind of make a nod to the ridiculousness of the story. Yeah,
it was like you come off as a guy just recognizing that this is a fact.
Yeah, that was actually, that part's not true. I just needed a way to explain. There's a ridiculous detail in the story that I needed to just explain. And I was like, well, that's kind of ridiculous. And I was like, well, if I just note the ridiculousness of that and attribute it to me being white.
Yeah, I can dig it.
Yeah.
That's simple. And that's simple. That's the code.
So that was just a loophole. That was just making it about race happened to be the fun part.
That's dope, man. That's dope. So, you did a comedy roast battle a few years back. You beat a number of amazing comedians. Who was the most interesting comedian for you to go up against on roast battle?
Mike Lawrence. Mike Lawrence is brilliant. He really lives for writing jokes.
Yeah.
He will attack you from every direction. He'll do it. Every joke structure is varied. He'll hit you with multiple jokes in one turn, and he's not there just to hit you with the easy stuff. He wants to make everyone laugh and find a way to make it sting a little bit. So that was a pleasure. That was a real treat.
That's dope. That's dope. How'd you enjoy doing the roast battle?
I've loved all of it. It's been very fun.
Yeah.
I've been very fortunate. I've lost, I guess, 2 of the times on. Yeah. It sucked losing to Frank. He did very well. I stuttered on one word and I never regained from that. And I still kick myself to this day. I mean, he probably still would have won, but I wish I could have landed. It's crazy.
Yeah.
That's another talk about mechanics.
Yeah.
I do these battles. I've won 3 battles in a row, and now I'm in the final, and I mess up one word.
That's
and
the rhythm
all of this persona I've built up, all of this bravado, this fake character. Falls apart, and now they all see me for the pathetic fraud I am.
That sounds like that kind of sounds like Trump's current week.
That's a whole other thing.
That's a whole other thing. So while you're in DC, this is a political. What do you think about some of the stuff that you're saying? Do you talk about politics in your acting?
I try not to.
What do you find it divisive?
I find it
uninteresting. Or do you
uninteresting.
just not find it interesting?
Yeah, I find it uninteresting.
I can dig it.
I don't think you have to agree with. You should have to agree with me to like my comedy. I think you should have to be which is weird because I'm also very elitist and I do a lot of I don't know, things like academic jokes, so you have to have a background. I don't like the idea you have to agree with someone to find them funny.
Yeah, I dig that. I dig that.
And make Trump, right? And I also don't like a lot of my comedy. I really like mundane.
Yeah.
I really like picking seemingly mundane topics to make funny. I mean, you should pick it. I think every joke you do, there should be a challenge in it. Mm-hmm. Every joke you do on stage, there should be, what is difficult about this? How does this break the rules of how comedy normally works? And how can I break that rule?
Yeah.
And to me, mundane is really Pop-Tarts. Seinfeld's Pop-Tarts.
Yeah.
That's such a boring thing. And we were talking about him before we turned on the microphones, but Clayton English is a comic who's really amazing. If you're listening, you should look at his comedy. It's really good because I was doing a show with him one time.
Yeah.
And
in Atlanta?
I think he had his set list sitting out. And I glanced at it. And it was just bread, beans, cake. And I was that literally looks like a shopping list. And then he goes up and kills. I mean, when that guy tears a room apart, it's thunderous laughter.
Yeah.
He kills on a level very few people alive can do with a comedically boring list of subjects. Yeah. That is beautiful to me.
I think those are the marks of a really good folks.
I agree. Rape, 9/11, abortion. It's not controversial. That's boring. Because those things have inherent tension built in them, which makes them easier to make funny.
What did you do today? Getting your tea, getting your coffee, going to work, getting in the car.
Digging this thing we've all seen and don't see inherent comedy or aren't seemingly interesting.
Right. I mean, I do think, and I've taken my shots at them, but I'm getting it's not funny anymore. It's not funny talking about the thing everyone else is talking about.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, what isn't someone talking about? So, when, like you said, when Seinfeld comes on talking about Pop-Tarts, so Clayton talks about his beans and bread and basically walking through a grocery store and what I got to pick up today.
Yeah.
And then you get that experience from him and you see how that turns into, okay, now we want to follow this guy through. That becomes a TV show. Yeah. That becomes that's a movie.
Or that becomes, this is a guy who makes everything funny. And I want to build everything around him. To me, Goldman, that state's abbreviations bit of like, what's it's more mundane than the 2 letters we choose to abbreviate the 50 states on a mailing letter.
Yes.
So trivial.
Yeah.
And he made it into one of the funniest stand-up sets of all time.
Yeah. And it's something we do. Well, it's like Gary... fuck, I can't think of his name, but he has he's the HBO special. Shit.
Not Goldman?
No, not Goldman.
Owen?
No, not Gary Owen. I get Larry Sanders.
Great writer. And he wrote from the place of every joke needed to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
Every joke needed to be a joke, first of all. He was an excellent joke crafter. Yeah. He kind of understated that point in the documentary. But he wanted it to always be from a place of his own feelings of insecurity.
That joke about the pen at the bank, it was like, I came from an era when I used to see those pens, and like, I got this pen today at the bank. I'm like, how did you take it? He just snatched it and walked out.
Yeah.
That's like, that is ridiculous to me. And it's ridiculously funny. So you performed on a few different stages. You performed on television shows like Conan and Fallon, as well as had your own Comedy Central special. Which of these performances do you personally feel most attached to?
The Conan set.
Conan
was really cool. It was very neat. It was I had recorded my half hour already. I wanted Conan so bad for so long. Yeah. It was so cool to me. All the hip comics were doing it.
Yeah.
And it was a really cool experience because I'd done my half hour. I'd had a good summer. I think I did roast battle right around then. No, I hadn't. My bad. But I'd done a half hour. I'd done like at midnight. I had a little bit of heat for the first time in my career, and other comics starting to notice. And I got out of nowhere a message from the booker. He said, "Hey, you want to come do Conan next month?" And in a weird way, I was like already over it. I'm like, this would have meant the world to me, but I just did my half hour, so I guess obviously I'll do it. But like, cool, I guess it kind of took the pressure off of it, and. He said, what material do you think about doing? I was like, I don't know. I was probably going to like open with a CrossFit and do like the gynecology joke. He goes, okay. I go, do you want me to like record it? He was like, nah, I've heard all that stuff.
Nice.
Just make sure it's under 5. That was it. He was the guy who books it. So brilliant and such a big fan of comedy. He had seen me enough times around LA at festivals that he knew which jokes I was talking about. He knew they were appropriate and he knew they would fit. And he trusted me to do it. And I remember that was a really fun set for me because I did like, I think it was 70 seconds of self-effacing introductory material, kind of accessible. And then the rest of the set, I wanted the remaining 4 minutes to be on one subject, and that was gynecology. It was on the etymology of the women's reproductive system, which was something I found. It was an original premise. People say there's no original premise.
Right.
And this was, to me, I was like, no, this was something I kind of had to do some research to figure out, and I don't think other comedians have written about this.
Yeah.
And then I closed on the misuse.
Of the women's reproduction.
To spoil it for you, it said it's all named after men. All the parts that are named after people are named after men. And the last joke was about how people misuse the word vagina instead of vulva. And it was, to me, really fun to just pick that narrow of a subject to do a set about. Like, I really like late night sets that just stick to one theme. So that was really, really fun to be able to get away with that. I said vulva 8 times in a row. I remember being on stage, and I usually go like, vulva, 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 vulva. And I was just like, I said it 2 extra times. I was like, never get a chance to do this again. You get to say vulva 8 times in a row on television.
Oh man,
how fun is that? And it's and then a few weeks later, it was posted on Reddit and hit 1 million views. Nice. And for a week, it was pretty cool.
I know, right?
It was very positively received by Reddit, which probably is a horrible thing given Reddit, but
yeah. That's cool, man.
That meant a lot to me.
So you've done TV shows as well as stand up. You would you call yourself an actor also?
More of one now, yeah.
Cool. So you've done The League, Mindy Project, TV's Guy Code. What do you prefer? Do you have a preference, or
I mean, I'll never stop loving stand-up, but
Okay.
I would really like to make it my way into acting. It's still very intimidating to me. I still feel very novice and feel like I have a lot to learn with it, but I'm eager to learn it. And I think...
Do you think one helps the other?
Yes, acting classes have tremendously helped my stand-up.
Yeah.
So much.
Yeah.
I've done improv, I've done sketch writing classes. Stand-up instantly was teaching me things about like really good things that helped, and not like how to act better on stage,
Right,
like how
right.
to make your own material kind of breathe and live more.
Right. I found that same thing. I took some courses in this, and it was just like it falling deeper into the joke, and it was like, oh, if I become this, like I do a joke where I have to use an English voice. I don't have to do an English accent, but I had to learn how to do it, and the more I started learning how to do a good one, the better the joke got.
Right.
And the better the joke gets, because I'm still learning, actually. So it's like I found that those acting methods help stand-up so much.
There was something cool I witnessed. I would open for Angela Johnson, who was a great comedian, great actor.
Yeah.
And I was standing to the side of the stage, kind of like from near the green room. She was, killing, and she did this joke. There was an impression of her brother being really pissed off about a teddy bear being thrown away. A grown man just be like, why would you do that? And there's a point in the joke where she gets really angry, and she storms over, and she walks to the back of the stage. She has her face against the wall. She's just kind of stewing. The crowd just sees her just like, ugh. And then, you only see her back, and then she turns around and goes back up and like, listen, and keeps going with the rest of the joke. And I was the only person in the room who was wide enough to the stage that I could see facing the wall.
Yeah.
She was still in character. No one could see it, but she was still it. She was that person, even at the point where no one was part of it, because she was trying to dive into it.
Yes.
The parts you don't see.
Yes. Yes. It's becoming. People are
It's like
talking
reminds me when I make a sculpture. How I'll work really, really mercilessly on little details that'll get covered up by something else or will never be in a picture.
Do you find that do you find yourself detail driven?
Yes. Yes, excessively. To a fault, yeah.
All right. Hold that thought right there. We're going to go to a break and come right back on Comedy Craft with Matthew Broussard, and we're going to talk about his sculpting and the details and the finer details of stand-up comedy and comedy in general and craft beers. Comedy Craft is recorded right here in Washington, D.C. at the D.C. Comedy Loft, an iconic location for stand-up comedy. We've got some amazing headliners the month of November. Under the Influence Mind Melt Comedy Showcase, November 7th. Tony Hinchcliffe pulls in with his podcast, November 8th and 9th. Hunter Hill is in town, November 8th. Jake the Snake Roberts in town, November 11th. J.F. Harris is in town November 14th, and D.C. Benny returns to D.C. November 15th and 16th. Dan Perlman is in town November 15th and 16th. Mark Ellis pulls up November 16th. Holidays edition of My Melt Comedy Showcase is November 21st. Paul Mercurio is in town November 22nd and 23rd. And Todd Rex comes back home November 22nd and 23rd. Carl Anthony Payne the second is in town November 29th and 30th, and Gianmarco Soresi is in town November 29th and 30th. That's right, get turkeys and laughter all that weekend. All these shows and more have tickets available at the DCComedyLoft.com. Welcome back home. And welcome back to Comedy Craft. This is Haywood Turnipseed Jr. And we have the mad scientist Seth in the background telling me that we got to drink some more with our guest today, Matthew Broussard. How you doing, Matthew?
I'm delighted.
So today, so far, we've had a cider, which we've named Red Fantastic. And we've had a milk stout, which we've named Orc Blood.
Orc Blood.
Orc Blood. Orc Blood. So now, Shells, what do you have for us next? Detail.
Now I have the Shafley Oktoberfest.
Shafley October. This is...
It's a Marzen, which technically means they brew it in March for Oktoberfest. And it is a 5.5 ABV with a kind of caramel color.
I like that. I like that. I can see that going nice with Thanksgiving dinner.
It's tasty. It's pretty flavorful. I think if I had to give it a name, I would call it Shaftly Oktoberfest.
Shaftly Oktoberfest.
It's like I'm just feeling that name. I don't know where it came from.
Shaftly. I like it. You damn right. So we were talking before the break about we were talking about the details, and we were talking about your sculpting. So talk to us about that. You sculpt figurines.
I sculpt little characters, Pokemon, Pixar characters, cartoon characters.
I've seen BoJack.
Horseman.
Yeah.
And then I
How'd
tried
you get into that?
I started when I was like 4 or 5.
Really?
My parents bought me clay. Yeah.
Really?
I would make stuff. And then they would always hate buying me toys. So whenever I wanted something, they'd be like, sculpt it.
No way!
And then I would play with my friends, and I would have, they would have the toys, and I'd have my sculpture, and I'd always be annoyed that theirs would look better than me. So I was always trying to get better to make it look more and more like the real thing. So it was a competitive thing.
That's nice, man.
Yeah.
Since you were 4.
4, yeah.
Wow. So what have you created over the years?
I mean, hundreds
You
of
name
things.
it, right?
Yeah.
You have them all in one. You sell them?
No. I give them away.
You do?
Usually, eventually, yeah.
Wow, man.
But they break.
Oh,
So I only have probably about like 20 around my apartment.
Okay.
And I've made hundreds, so.
So do you have to, do you heat them so that they, oh, you do the
But
whole,
like in a regular oven, though. Very low temperature. You can boiling water will harden them. It's, yeah.
That is dope, man. That's dope. I'm a collector, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I dig that. I'm
It's
trying to
fun.
get my kids into collecting. I had an original Hawkman from like the 50s. They opened it. I was so fucking
Oh
mad.
my God. How much is that thing worth?
Oh, that one was up there. And I was kind of mad. Cause I found it. It's one of those that you find like on like south of the border or some shit. One of those places that you find off 95 that sells old things and just has them. And it was just like, oh wow, this is from like 56 or something like that, right? And I was like, okay, cool. Took it, kept it in the packaging, and then the kids became 4 years old and they opened it up and started playing with it with Superman and the rest of them. And I was like, yours.
He's not
are
even in
here.
DC.
I was like, yours are here, mine are here. Let's get that. So I appreciate that as an art form. Speaking of that as an art form, you have to be very detailed.
Yeah, I'll find myself going really heavy on like tiny little things. Like I'll spend an hour on the eyes. Lots of little things. And and because you never know what little detail is going to be someone's favorite part of it. Like what I love is talking to people after shows. And sometimes you'll see people, like really big fans of comedy. Like, I really liked blank. This one line, this one word you used that didn't get a laugh.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? I'm like, and quantitatively, you would have never seen the value in keeping that line there because it didn't get a laugh. You didn't feel it adding. But for someone, they connected with that.
That detail.
Yeah.
It's all in the details, right? Yeah.
And
the
really.
beats.
But I focus so much on like small details that I have trouble keeping big picture stuff. Like I've never written a full half-hour script because it's just such a daunting task. I'd rather just write a bunch of perfect one-line jokes than try to make it all work together. That seems like such a daunting thing. The combinations become so overwhelming.
Yeah, the big picture.
Yeah, and then just having so many little decisions you have to make, and big decisions, and are they right or wrong, and how do you know that you did the right thing? So that always overwhelms me. I have trouble with that.
I can dig it. So in addition to sculpting, outside of stand-up, you also have a website, Monday Punday.
Yeah.
Where there's visual puns.
Visual puns, cartoon puns, yeah.
I dig that, man.
Thanks.
I dig that. That's really... now, I was thinking of a way to explain this, but you have to explain this to the audience.
Yeah, they are visual wordplay puzzles, so...
it's like anagrams involved.
Sometimes. It's mostly for the puns. Up until recently, it's been visual puns. So this picture represents wordplay of a familiar phrase or title. So it would be the classic example is a caveman sculpting a vase would be the picture. And the answer would be Harry Potter. It's a Harry Potter. There's also, I've started doing visual anagrams. That's a little bit harder to explain, but those are where I really enjoy anagrams. A picture represents a pair of words that rearrange spell one another.
Yeah.
People don't like those as much, and that's fair. I'm just out of ideas for puns, but Puns are these are effectively riddles, puzzles, and I think as someone who's designed a lot of these, I think a lot of comedians oftentimes will compare jokes to magic tricks. I think riddles are one of the closest analogs to jokes because with jokes and riddles, there is a piece of information you are withholding from the crowd.
Purposely.
With a riddle, you are trying to help them find it. And it needs to be far away enough that they don't find it easily, but close enough that they eventually find it. And with jokes, I want to lead you along a track withholding some information, and then at the moment I reveal it, it surprises you, but it makes sense. You know what I mean? It can't be just completely random out of nowhere, otherwise it's not funny. And it can't be too obvious because you're not going to laugh because you weren't surprised.
It's that I should have saw that.
It makes perfect sense retroactively.
That person saw it, and like we were talking about earlier.
Riddles and jokes are very similar in that regard.
I love a good riddle. One of my favorite movies is Clue. Did you hear they're doing a remake? Well, I think they're going to be doing a remake of that.
Cool.
Jason Bateman possibly directing and Ryan Reynolds starring in it. I said it to say puzzles. I really do love putting puzzles together from jigsaw to. Like I said, I'm a telephone man by trade. How do you comedy and puzzles? How do you see those two things?
Well, the difference is in puzzles you are looking to expand your mind. Comedy is more passive. You allow it to come to you. As someone who consumes comedy.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Do you do puzzles regularly?
Yeah.
What types of puzzles? Word. Jigsaw.
Math.
Math puzzles.
I do some math. I do.
Sudoku?
I do some. I don't do Sudoku. In college I wrote a MATLAB Sudoku solver.
Stop playing.
Yeah, I was supposed to be doing finals, and I wrote one. It could solve most of them. I think there was like a class of puzzles. It was like the absurdly difficult Sudokus. When I would enter those in, it couldn't figure them out. But I created an algorithm that could solve them. That was decently fast.
That's neat. Do you still do any coding?
No.
Really?
I lost it all.
Do you do your website?
Yeah, but I did that like 8 years ago. I had to go in and edit something recently. I'm like, what is... I don't know. That is me. I wrote this? Who wrote this?
I'm heavy into it.
It's held together by like duct tape. It's crazy how like bare bones the coding is.
Yeah, it worked. It's like you do something like this works for me, but then when you go look back at it, it's like, oh, this just works for me. I'm working on getting my coding. I think is the next big thing. I think cybersecurity and that kind of stuff is like as far as industry.
No, it's cursive. We need to be teaching children cursive. Fuck computer programs.
You think we should teach them cursive?
Why are we wasting time teaching these kids coding when we could be teaching them
how to write in English, fancy letters with a quill? Give me my quill and ink and my stamp. Godiva. It's my quill and my ink and my stamp.
Godiva?
I don't know why.
Fuck yeah, that's hilarious. It's so funny.
Because my kids they brought Minecraft into the house and into my world. I was like, oh, I know what this is. And I remember seeing it as like Doom and things like that. But then I started to show them that you can build your own world. And then not just build the world within it, but build Minecraft and tell it what you want to do. Mm-hmm. So they're young enough to pick up on it to where it like becomes something that they can do regularly. Mm-hmm. What do you think about that when it comes to comedy? Like the code, how we find the funny and pull it out of every day, the mundane, and then make it elaborate.
Yeah. I don't know. I think you said it all right there. How am I supposed to add to that? That was beautiful.
Yeah, well, because I think it's like that Matrix code, right? And then eventually start like there's that scene in the movie where it was like,
yeah, but ultimately you want to with comedy and with art in general, there are formulas you have to follow. But how do you break them?
Right.
How do you break those rules? Ultimately, I think you should be trying to. Yeah. Every great piece of art should be trying to break one rule.
It does.
Sometimes you can break two rules at the same time.
It does, doesn't it? Because like you figure like
Picasso you follow those formulas, but how can you break away from it? Yeah.
Colors and symmetry and all those different things.
He was breaking the rule of art should look like what it supposed to look like.
Yeah.
What if it doesn't?
Yeah.
What if it just like doesn't look like? You're like, that's ridiculous. Yeah, it has to. And you're like, but
Yeah. Do you think? So how does sculpting and how does creating puzzles? Do you think that helps you as a comedian at all?
puzzles will constantly doing wordplay helps because I think wordplay in comedy is always going to be around, always a helpful tool. Yeah, whether it's like a really jokey pun or you can. I think there's really subtle wordplay sometimes that people don't realize. People always condemn puns, but puns can be really subtle and really light.
Yeah,
in ways you don't even realize it was a pun that made you laugh.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Very punny.
Mm-hmm. And
people shy away from them too. They
shy away from
them. I think that's really a good art form. Like if you can create a pun, I know some people who can really do them really well.
Yeah, when they work well, they work phenomenally well.
Yeah.
They work like if you get a wordplay punchline that actually works, it's like closer worthy. Same with misdirection. I think misdirection and wordplay are two considered typically pretty cheesy devices,
but they work.
But when they work. A lot of 99% of the time you hear them, they don't actually work too well. It's a little jokey or cheesy, but when they work, if you save them to not do too often, they bang. Yeah,
don't beat them up with them, right?
And people hate them. People really hate them sometimes. There are people who really loathe. Jack Knight he was like, your comedy's good, but every time you do a pun, it's just like, ugh, fuck that. And then I know. What's funny is though, I don't have anything to back this up. It's anecdotal, but the people I know who are very left-brain people, engineers, computer programmers, mathematicians, even doctors, tend to really respond to wordplay. Mm-hmm. Like when I'm doing a crowd of all doctors or all, let's say, engineering students, the puns work better. Mm. And I'm curious as to why that is. I have a couple theories, but I think that more analytic minds like wordplay, and I think more emotionally driven, socially intelligent people don't want the wordplay. They want the kind of the emotional reality of a joke.
Yeah.
The expression, the character.
I was talking to this intelligence. I mean, this is DC area, so I was talking to this guy who's an intelligence director the other day, and he was talking about black hats, right, and how they're trying to create white hats. Hackers that work for the government. Mm-hmm. And part of their recruitment process is to send these folks into comedy to learn comedy, stand-up, improv, so that they think outside of the box. Mm. Yeah. And I was like, really? He was like, yeah, because we want these people to just really think against the norm. They're already thinking outside of the box if they're thinking in this realm. Mm-hmm. But if they bring comedy into it, then now they have like a jump-off point where we can say, okay, you know what? This thought process is something we can work with. Yeah. And I'm like, I had never thought of, I hadn't seen comedy in that light before, but a lot of businesses are doing that. Yeah. A lot of folks are sending people to different stand-up. That's what those stand-up classes exist most times. It's not people who become comics.
Good luck with that in HR. Jesus.
Who's some of your favorite comics? What got you into stand-up?
Tosh.
Tosh?
Yeah, I hate to say it because I know I sound so much like him. I know he has.
It's
silly to say of people oh yeah, he's definitely had influence on your comedy. He's had influence on me. Yeah. The way I talk and act as a person. I was such a fan of him so young. He was just a revelation to me. Because I was so used to seeing comedians being like the Dave Attell type. Yeah. You're like, schlubby, I'm a dirtbag, I like drinking, I hate waking up before noon. And Tosh came with this guy who reminded me of myself. He didn't seem to have too different of a history than me, and yet was really, really funny. So it was like it's a very inverted story of representation being important.
That's what we spoke about a little bit off mic, but that's important,
it's like when people are like, well, we need more women in STEM to inspire more women in STEM because if you don't see people who look like you, you don't think you can do it. I'm like, I know that because without Tosh, I don't think I would have considered that I was allowed to do stand-up comedy. Yeah. And then, I love Mulaney, Colin Quinn's one of my favorites lately, Gary Goldman, Maria Bamford, I've been a big fan of for a long time. Yeah. So many, Hannibal Buress, Cal Kinane, Pete Holmes I really like. Outside of comedy, I really like John Mayer. I really like that John Mayer did comedy.
Yeah,
I liked his
he's
jokes
funny
because
too, man.
he was this douchebag, but he had so much self-awareness about it that it was okay, and that was something I really learned from. XKCD, Randall Monroe's comic strip. I find it so funny and so smart, and that he does something so nerdy, so much smarter than what I do, and still has such a big fan base. Futurama. Daily Show, Colbert. Maybe I would say Douglas Adams, but I haven't read enough. But I am inspired by him too. But it's something Anthony Jeselnik said on a podcast or two of if you want to steal from someone, just make sure they're not a stand-up comedian. You can steal someone's whole essence, but if they're not someone who does stand-up, then you're still innovating. You're just translating from another medium.
That's true. I mean, what's Banksy say? Exit through the gift shop.
Yeah.
So that you can steal the stuff. I mean, and it's really true. I think, because I know I pull from a lot of different... That
name, by the way, Exit to the Gift Shop, is a joke about the melting... of commerce and art, this great art piece of also we're trying to take your money, which we can no longer deny as part of this whole thing,
right. It's like, how did you acquire this, and how much did it cost? And it's like, oh my goodness, this is what this is, and it's like, you just want me to buy this book or this print, but you do want me to buy something because you got to keep the lights on. Yeah, that's the important part, and that's why it's like that's why I just equated to. That's what I call it earning a living, because if I want to say it's making a living, then I got to do different things. You know what I mean? I got to feel different about it. But if it's how I earn my keep, then I feel a lot better about, okay, this is what I presented to the audience. Some of this they liked, some of this they didn't. What they liked, I'll recoup and put into a special one day, hopefully. And what they didn't like will be in the credits. That'll be the what do you call in those movies, Seth, when they have the outtakes? Bloopers. Everyone loves bloopers, and you have people who like. I love watching Richard Pryor's when he changed his special Live and Spoken, because he has his stuff written down. It's not quite where he wants it to be yet, and it's like we didn't get to see that part of Richard Pryor. Or when you listen to some early Patrice O'Neal before you see Elephant in the Room, you hear him getting to that point, and that's the part that I dig when it's the craft of it. But oftentimes the audience only gets to see the end product. See, yeah. And rightfully so, because they pay a fee, right?
Yeah. I'm just not interested in that. I love seeing a new comic work on something new, but I also like it because it makes me feel like, hey, I'm not that bad at this.
Oh my goodness.
We all struggle.
That's what Carter said. Yeah. But who doesn't? I mean, I love watching people come up with different things. I'm like, that's a different, it's a masturbation joke, but it's a different way of telling a masturbation joke. And that person has a point of view, and we'll understand. And when they get their perspective on what they want to talk about, they'll be right on. So we just had October Skanky October. That was pretty good. Did you like it?
I did.
What's your favorite beer?
I'm not much of a drinker.
You're not much of a drinker?
I don't really drink. Yeah.
Smoke?
Yeah, I like weed. I like weed, but I can't do edibles anymore. It fucks me up now. Edibles really mess with me now.
Edibles, man. I can't do edibles, man.
I like being high on edibles. It's the next day I feel really depressed. I'm really down.
I'm a big dude, so it's like, and I don't say that to say like I'm a big dude. It's just like what I got to eat. I'm always off, and it's like I do just a little bit more, and it's just like, fuck, my body's tired. Yeah. I don't know. People joke about slavery, but I could not have been one. I was like, I just can't take it no more, boss. I'm tired. I'm mean. I'm tired.
That's funny. Oh shit.
I gotta go to sleep. I did it one time. Right? My wife makes them, and she made a set, and I was watching Monday Night Football, and I was eating cookies, and I just thought I was eating cookies, so I was getting hungry, of course. So I went and got more cookies. And then I woke up again, and it was like Nightline was on. I was like, what the fuck happened? And she was like, you ate how many cookies? I was like half a dozen? And she was like, no, you ate more like 8 or 9 of these chocolate drops, was what she was called. And the chocolate had, marijuana and the CBD and THC, apparently. And I was like, those were some heavy-ass cookies with play on THC. Okay. And we'll be back after this break.
Are you looking to get into computer programming and development, but just not sure where to start? Maybe you've been in the field a while and you want to learn something new. Hi, I'm Brandon, and I'm your host for Truth or Dev, the podcast where we talk the truth behind coding, plus take on some exciting dev challenges that are sure to be an adventure in programming. We will also discuss development with different guests as they share their insight and answer questions from our subscribers. So be sure to check out Truth or Dev on Mad Scientist Media at truthordev.msm.fm for new episodes coming soon.
And we're back on Comedy Craft. Still talking the craft of comedy and craft beers with our guest today, Matthew Broussard. Matthew, you still in there with us?
I'm hanging on.
All right, we have one more beer that we're going to drink, and we're going to talk a little bit more about this comedy craft. And then we're going to get out of here. Shells, what do you got for us to close it out?
Right here, I have the Wicked Weed.
Wicked Weed.
Weed.
That is a great. Follow those edible talk, huh?
Dark aged, barrel aged Russian Imperial Stout. It has a 12% ABV and it's from Asheville, North Carolina.
Asheville, North Carolina.
Alcoholic.
Let's see what Asheville got. Oh, that's wicked.
That is.
That's wicked.
Wow.
Yeah. You should only drink a sip because we're going to pass out in a minute. It's got hops.
That's got, yeah.
That's got hops right there. What do you
It
think
sounds
of that?
like something, it tastes like something you just put a few drops of into like a whole cake. You know what I mean? Like with like an eyedropper and it's like
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah.
And that's good.
Yeah.
That's very strong.
It makes that good pound cake. What would you call this?
Orc Blood. God, I'm good.
The stout of Orc Blood, baby. Orc Blood. Oh my goodness! So, have you enjoyed hanging out with us this?
I've had a great time. This is
Thank you. We just want we like our headliners who come through the Comedy Loft to have a good time. I mean, we do appreciate that you take your time after your shows to kind of like this is like our happy hour moment where we kind of like wind down after the shows and drink a few beers.
I got some crazy sleep schedules.
Talk
People who work
man.
at comedy clubs, unbelievable.
What?
What time do you go to sleep?
6 a.m.
5 a.m.? What about you? 5. Wow.
Yeah, man.
How are you ever...
Team
you
no
ever
sleep.
feel normal? Like,
Normal? What's that?
if I'm up till 2,
We're like
It's the normal.
this is normal.
what time are you able to sleep in well? Going to sleep at 5?
No.
No, I have to be back here tomorrow at 12.
Yeah. I don't have to be back until next week, Saturday.
Wow.
But I do have children that I get up with. And then that's the crazy part because they got football games and whatnot and you gotta
You
go.
walk around like 3 hours sleep?
Man, hungover too. But I'm a good dad and I smell like one. Good dad smell like alcohol. At least that's what one of my dads said. So we talked about your puzzles. We talked about your puns. We talked about you. Is there anything you want to talk to us about? Tell us what's going on with Matthew. What we can, where we can check you out in the
here
future.
today.
What's happening?
I'm here today to talk about the environment.
The environment.
No.
How do you feel about climate change? We actually had a guest who had some very. He said some wild shit on climate change.
They believe in it?
No, he didn't believe in it. Well, he said it was concocted, and I mean, of course, you
For
have that.
what motivation? Like what is of like just?
Well, money.
I mean, it's
Money. We
not
talking
it's
about
not
commerce. He said it was money
environmental
with the end game.
science. It's a simple game of psychology. Which side of these two has more motivation to lie?
Yeah.
How about the oil companies who already make billions and want to keep making billions?
Yes.
That just seems like the researchers who want more grant money.
Yeah.
No, they're scientists. If they wanted to make more money, they would quit their jobs and work for the oil companies.
For the oil companies that make more money and get in. How can we
Jesus.
do this fracking job
They could go work for a finance company. They have a quantitative background. Whatever, dude. That's just so silly. What's their motivation?
And that was okay. So my take on it was okay. I get where he was coming from with the capitalization of it. Of course, that's where we are now. However, there is truth behind it. There's
all those billionaire solar panel moguls. Yeah. Oh, whoa. They're
Jimmy
pulling a
Carter
fast one on us.
So, what are your thoughts on climate change?
The thing is the deniers are like, well, we don't know. If that's more concerning. What if a doctor came in the room and was like, you have cancer? You're like, oh no. What if a doctor came in the room and like, dude, no idea. Like, it could be terrible. It could be nothing. We've just never seen this before. I would rather have cancer. Like, you have a treatable cancer of like seriously, question marks. Showed it to everyone. No, I think you're the first.
So,
not knowing is scarier.
You are not foregoing to Dr. House for all your diagnoses.
Let's just not take the risk.
That was my point. Let's not. There is science behind reducing your carbon footprint. We know this. We need to be self-aware. We do know that we need to stop putting so much plastic out into the world. We do know that we need to just not putting so much emissions out there. Hot air literally equates to bullshit.
I have a theory about it, that the whole climate change denial thing was a conspiracy propagated by introverts. Because they were so sick of strangers trying to talk to them about the weather. And now people are like, crazy winter. It's like, whoa, loaded subject.
That's perfect. That's perfect.
Fucking introverts.
They don't want to talk about the polar vortex.
No.
This has been a whirlwind show. We have talked puzzles. We have talked puns. We have talked comedy. We've talked applied mathematics. On some level, analytics. And now we're talking environmentals.
Yeah.
You are good, man.
I think we're done. I think we solved everything.
You are good conversation.
I think we figured it out. We did it.
And a great beer name, Orc Blood. May I have another? I would love another Orc Blood. Can this one come with some hobbits? So which one has been your favorite tonight?
This one. Yeah, this last Orc Blood 2.
Right on.
Orc Blood 2. That's what we want, more Orc Blood 2?
Yeah, Orc Blood 2.
I'm all set, buddy.
So where you at next?
I will be in Wilmington, North Carolina in October.
You could probably get some of this.
18th, 19th, yeah.
Because they're down there in Nashville. October 18th and 19th?
Wilmington. Yeah,
so you go back to what part of New York do you live in?
Brooklyn, Fort Greene.
Oh, right on. I was just up there a week ago. It's pretty cool. How do you like... We were talking about earlier, you went to LA first, but then you chose New York. There are two different scenes, two very different types of scenes. I do believe you're either a LA guy or a New York guy. You seem to be a New York guy.
Yes.
Do you believe that there are two different... What do you think about that?
I think LA comics are more... it's more performative, it's more perspective-driven, it's more character-driven, and that's point of view-driven even, and I think that's great. And I think New York is more joke-driven. Mm-hmm. Punchlines.
Yeah.
Keep the laughs going, that's about it.
Yeah.
Life's hard in New York, and people just don't laugh. Don't bore us, get to the chorus.
Oh, man, that was it, man. It was just like, okay, I can be fun out in L.A., but in New York, I got to be on point.
Yeah,
and I love that
challenge.
I love
having to having to meet that standard of being on a show with a bunch of other funny people and having to, make sure you don't slow down, you know?
Yeah.
But then hopefully you can do it in your own way, too.
Right on. So you started comedy when you were 23?
Yes.
And you're 31 now?
Yes.
Is there anything that you would tell your 31-year-old comedic self would tell your...
Stop being so entitled. It's not about... You'll keep getting funnier. People won't like you for your success. They will like you for your failures. People don't want to see you succeed. They want to see you fail and play into that.
Yeah.
And talk about your insecurities and you lead with your shortcomings.
Yeah.
And
as a white male, you talk about your shortcomings.
Yeah.
And that's not a daunting task for you. But it is a daunting task at this time. And you actually are doing pretty good. rising to that challenge. Man.
Thank you.
So this drink is for you. Sir.
Rise.
You're rising.
RYES.
You rising to that challenge. Because you're making me care about white men, which I've told I should do more.
We'll be fine.
That's really cool. That's really cool. So, man, I thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
For hanging out with us.
Thank you.
Talking to us about comedy and really just talking to us about your life. It's really cool to have an experienced comedian talk about experienced things and how they experience the world. Where can we get at you on those social medias? Are you
At
on social
Monday
media?
Punday. On Instagram and Twitter. And I'm not very responsive on Twitter anymore. So
Say it again,
Instagram.
because I was talking over.
Monday Punday.
Monday
on
Punday.
Instagram and Twitter.
And it's also an app.
Also an app. Yeah.
Android, iOS.
All of it. Yeah.
All of it.
Yeah.
Right on.
Through Brandon Minnick, my app manager. He's a brilliant guy, yeah.
That's cool, man. How you like having an app?
It's nice. It was all made for me by this guy who was a fan of the site. So
That's neat. I have an app for my laugh, so you can hear that. It's a ringtone.
I like that.
It was like someone was like, that should be an app. I was like, okay, let's get
Hard
on
to
that.
sleep through that.
Hey, wake up. And then one buddy, like, my wife has it as a ringtone, but sometimes when we have sex, somebody calls and I hear it, and I'm like, that's thank you. I was like, thank you, because I would laugh at you if I saw you having sex.
That's funny.
Right on, man. So you have an interesting voice yourself. Have you done voice-over work?
No.
Would you?
Yeah.
I like that kind of stuff. I like voice acting.
Yeah, it's competitive. I don't know how to break in.
Man, shit, that's the hardest part. Figuring out. It's like they say, like anything else, independent contracting. But then they go, okay, we want to build you this, that, and the third. And then as you figure out a way, the best way is for people to come to you.
Yeah.
You know, when they come to you and say, hey, Matthew, we love that voice. We want to hear that in a tune.
Hello.
And on that note, people, we say hello. Not only hello, but we can say goodbye. I know, Seth, we have 4 more minutes that we want to kill and fill, but we've been drinking and we've been thinking.
Let's
and we're
just
not
play.
thinking.
4 more?
No, so this is the part where we do wordplay.
Oh, okay.
So this is the part of the show where...
Let's just play Mama number 5.
this is the part where we like off mic, on mic. So as we still in the part of creating the show, I'm a fan of behind the scenes stuff and like talking to Seth and talking to Shells and Terrell and getting their impact. And Tone, what's up? He's hanging out back there in the back. A random black guy. Just so you know. I saw him earlier, so he had something in his hand. I was like, he must work here. Hey, bro, I got to watch. So I said that to say, you hanging out here after hours with these folks, did you have a good time?
I had a great time.
Yeah?
Had some good beer.
Did you have a good time at the Comedy
Good
Law?
laughs. Yes. I had a great time. I also like the smaller room. It's
Ah.
nice.
You see the fireplace in the back?
Where?
Right behind
Yeah, there we go.
you. Yeah, we like to call that the hearth.
I forgot to make. I had jokes I wanted to make about that.
He's talking about our
Just
beer wall, guys.
old cans lining the back of the stage. It's kind
Yeah.
of scary because that looks at like
Like old
looks like,
cans.
It looks
too.
like what like an old crazy man in just overalls would try to shoot off a pinch like a fence post.
Did you see Once Upon a Time in Hollywood?
No, I didn't.
Are you going to see Joker?
I'll probably end up seeing both.
Yeah?
Yeah, have you?
I saw Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I haven't seen
What
Joker
about
yet.
Joker? Has anyone seen Joker?
Anyone seen Joker yet?
I don't know.
I think it's gonna be good. I got high hopes. I mean, it's a movie about a Joker. It should have mixed views. The way Patrice O'Neal says it, 80% of the audience should like it. 20% should be like, yeah. What do you think about that?
That's a good proportion.
Cool, man. So I've had a great time talking to Matthew. We've been talking about these beers. So I'm going to go over these beers again that we've had. Originally, we started with Original Sin Black Widow, which is a cider, the blackberry. It's a blackberry cider, 6.0 alcohol out of New York. That we named Red Fantastic. Second, we had the Steel Moon Jumper Nitro. It was just a milk stout out of Normal, Illinois. That one you named Orc Blood.
Yeah.
And we had the Schlafly, am I saying that right? Shafley Oktoberfest. Martha, which means it's brewed in March, out of St. Louis, Missouri. It's brewed in March for October. That one we called October Shaft, if I'm not mistaken. And sixth on our list, lastly, we've had Wicked Weed Dark Age Barrel. It's a Russian Imperial with 12% alcohol out of Asheville, New York. That one we also named Orc Blood. I think we like orcs in here. Orc Blood 2. Oh, Lord of the Rings 2. So this is the two titles.
No. Just Orc Blood. We cannot. I don't want there to be any clarity as to which one I'm referring to.
Orc Blood. Which Orc Blood? The one. Well, you can say you want the Orc Blood out of Normal, Illinois, or you can say you want the Orc Blood out of Asheville, North Carolina. Those are the differences between the two.
Right.
But they're both orky, and they're both bloody. And they're pretty good. They're filled with hops, not hobbits. All right, guys, we're going to get out of here. We're going to let Matthew go get some sleep. We all going to go back to our respective lives. Some of us may even kill ourselves.
I mean, you hope. You hope.
I mean, you never know. It's a long time in between weeks. I say that to say, don't kill yourself. Come back to this show.
Yeah,
we're up every 3rd, and we're up every 20th of every month. Our first show has been out. Our second show has been out. And we want to thank our current guest for our 3rd show, Matthew Broussard, for sticking in with us, making 3 the charm. And we wish him big things. Check out Monday Punday.
Monday Punday.
Which is his website. And see if you can get the pun. He will actually assist it. The answers are never up on the web, which is one of those things I appreciate.
Thank you.
Because even those word
People
posts,
get
they put them
upset
out,
about
and you'd be like, I can get the answer. So a lot of people get lazy.
They do.
But when you have to seek the answer, you will always keep looking. And that is pretty Jewish.
Yeah, that's a very Jewish thing. Are you my rabbi?
Hey, man, that's Jewish and that's French at the same time.
Yeah.
I say it the same because the French are always looking and the Jews are always cooking. I didn't say anything negative. Just remember, be mindful of that. And we want to thank Seth Weinstein. Our producer.
Boy, that's a Jewish name.
The Mad Scientist. My name is Haywood Turnipseed Jr. We want to thank Matthew for hanging out with us. Shells, thank you for providing the beers and providing all the context. We appreciate you. Tone, thank you for hanging out with us. Turo, thank you for hanging out with us, sir, and getting down with our sound. Listen in to us later on, guys. We have more shows coming to you with more headliners from the DC Comedy Loft. That has been our show today.
Thanks.
We are out.
Keep it crispy.
All right, tonight's episode could not be possible without the amazing team behind the scenes at Mad Scientist Media. Brought to you by the DC Comedy Loft. All beers featured in tonight's show are available on tap. You can see an entire list of our upcoming performances at dccomedyloft.com for ticketing information. Big thanks to our guest tonight, Matthew Broussard. This show couldn't be possible without our amazing team. Our producers, T. Lee, Cheryl, Brandon McGee, James Gagan, and Julia Luchtenfeld. Intro and outro music by John Williams. Our executive producer, the mad scientist himself, Seth Weinstein. Our fantastic chief editor, T. Lee. Beer expert and tonight's unbeatable server, Shells. And as always, I'm your host, Haywood Turnipseed Jr. And of course, this show would not be possible without each and every one of you who are tuned in with us. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, make sure to drop us a rating and let us know what you think. You can catch Comedy Crowd on the 3rd and 20th of every month, wherever you listen to podcasts. That's Spotify, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. Want more info on the show? Check out our entire catalog of episodes at comedycraft.msm.fm. Have a question for the show? Send us an email, comedycraft@msm.fm. Once again, for our listeners, aka crafters, that make this possible, thanks, guys. You're awesome. This has been a production of the Mad Scientist Media.